But then you run into this type of situation where, you know what, somebody's got to take the lead, take the bull by the horns, and deal with the back end, the recordings, right? The posting on LinkedIn, the YouTube channel,
The
all these different
streaming
things,
service, all of that stuff. Yeah.
all of that stuff. I mean, Sean, great work.
Thank
We
Well
you.
love
done,
you.
brother.
I there are, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm happy to do it. And it's true with something like this, a lot of those things maybe you don't have to do, but one of the things I've learned is once you start something, if you're going to continue to do it, you should always be looking at where can we improve it, where can we add something to make it better, and all of these extra things. We don't have to, for example, we don't have to go live on LinkedIn. We said, but we want to. So
Great.
none of us really knew how to do that effectively in the moment, so we had to postpone. And once they're figured out, none of them are particularly difficult. But as you're right, as you said, it's a lot of little things that add up to a lot of time. And this is where this is what we talked about last time, like why we have team. I mean, yes, I've done some of it, but I also have some great people that support me. So, but I'm happy to do
It's
it.
good. We're happy to have that you have that support team.
So am I. So am I.
But just the thing, a lot of entrepreneurs, right? They have great ideas, and any of us, I'm sure, same thing, right? We got great ideas of something that we want to do. But now when you start to dig into what it requires, because it's, again, going back to the old days, garbage in, garbage out, right? And so if we don't put the effort into it, it's not gonna be successful. And if you don't deal with those details, you're not gonna be heading in the right direction at all. And eventually it's gonna fade and you go off to something else.
Well,
I
this is
think
why.
Rochelle was trying to say
Yeah, go ahead,
something.
Rochelle.
No, this is what I'm saying. That's a great topic for today is what does implementation look like and what does it take? I
Hmm.
always say, I have a funny line. I always say ideas are a dime a dozen. It's implementation that's
Yeah.
priceless. And an idea without implementation, I call a hallucination. And based on that, like we're all amazing hallucinating business owners. I mean, there's so many, and that's why a lot of companies bring me in because they start everything, complete nothing. Now,
Hmm.
implementation, it always takes longer than you think. I mean, you think you can get something done in whatever the fill in the blank is. It very rarely happens. And then every imaginable thing will come up and get in your way. So let's have a, great conversation all around input.
I
What do you
agree.
I
Let's
think
do
I
it.
think it's a great idea. A lot of times, as an entrepreneur, I have these ideas, and man, it's not like one idea. In a day, I could have four different ideas and how to, make something happen or create something new, or oh, I could do that better if I only did this. And then I come up with all these ideas, and I literally make a mess. And if I don't have people I've delegated to clean that mess up or to do the little details, like Sean, I'm sorry, but thank God you took over those little details because I just would have never got to it because it's not working in my working genius. It's doing the things that I hate doing that I may not be as good at, but someone else is. And part of entrepreneurship is realizing that and knowing when to go, you know what? I need to pull in like a Rachel or a Sean or Amelia or somebody else to
Yeah,
help
buddy.
straighten out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Rochelle, to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, our vice president, Melissa, she has an interesting word that she likes to use in these situations, which is hopium, right? And it's like, you
Other
have a lot of
people's
people
money.
hoping forever that something is going to
Oh,
happen,
hopium with
right?
an H.
Hopium.
Oh, I thought you were saying opium, other people's money. Well, now
No,
I know.
That can be helpful
no, no.
too. That can be
I
helpful
mean,
too.
I love the word, right? Because literally it is people hoping that something's going to happen or it's going to be successful, it's going to go in one direction or the other. And eventually, if you don't tackle the process, and that I think is the other issue. You have a process you have to tackle. The process has activities. The activities have tasks. You have those tasks have to be done on a certain time, or you have to measure them, right? And so you're going through this process, which is cyclical, and you're trying to pull all these pieces together. And if you jump around, it's not going to work. You don't have
Yeah,
a plan in
there's
the beginning, it's not going to work.
I think there's even more than a process. Process is part two. I think
Mhm.
you're passing over. We've got a part one. Part one is the discipline, because a lot of times in the
Yeah.
areas that need to
Right.
be implemented, sometimes we can even be good at it, but we don't like doing it. We're gravitating to the stuff that gives us, immediate gratification. It's fun, it's easy, it's breezy. That's the stuff we do over and over again. Then you have what I call the hard stuff, and we're capable of doing it, but now that needs discipline. Like I'm doing it today, no matter what. So before we even can get to the process, I think we need the discipline because we can create 1,000 processes and 1,000 strategies. And I'm sure, Maylee, you've done it. I know, Sean, I've done it. We've created a strategy for a company and it sits on a shelf. Strategy without mindset, without discipline, again, goes into my
Yeah.
category of a hallucination.
Yep.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah, there was I was talking to another entrepreneur about this not too long ago because this is something I've always believed. I always will happily share anything that I'm working on or doing with another entrepreneur. I'm very open with sharing it, and there was a time that I wasn't like that because I thought, well, someone's going to steal my idea or steal my thing. And then
No.
when I
When we were younger, when
oh
we
my
were
goodness, and then I started to realize something in that and I think Gary Vaynerchuk said this. He said, you know, I can literally give you the exact playbook, and 99.2% of you in this room won't do a thing with it. And it's not because you're bad people or you're not smart. It's that the idea is not the thing. The strategy is not the thing. It's important. It's a part of the thing, but so few people in business, especially, have the ability to get that from idea to execution, and then not only starting the execution but maintaining the execution so the business grows. And I've seen this in my own journey. There's different degrees of how well you execute and how well you implement. So there's the getting started and going from idea to step one. That's hard sometimes.
That's the hardest because there's
Yeah,
no energy in the
right,
project yet.
right.
So to go from
Rochelle,
inertia to get something
Rochelle,
started, the hardest.
Rochelle, say that again. I think that's an important point.
To get something started is the most difficult because there's no energy in the project. It's you're in inertia.
Yep.
So to get
Yeah.
something moving and to get it going, it's like I don't want to. You can't make me. There's no, and that's one of the things we have a problem with. If you're in your own business, you're the boss, so nobody's going to make you. If you're an employee,
Correct.
then you've
I
got
agree.
something called a paycheck
but
or
that's
the risk
where
of being fired. But if your own business
but
doesn't
that's
have
Yep.
where the inertia comes from, the entrepreneurial drive, the entrepreneurial spirit of taking that flywheel and making that hard push to get it around the first time and then the
Hmm.
second time. And then, you keep putting in the effort, you start delegating, you start, designing it and building it. And before you know it, the flywheel starts cooking.
I'm all
But getting
Correct.
started is the
Getting it
area.
started is yes,
I
definitely the
was just
hardest.
thinking
I
when you
agree.
said flywheel, Steve, I was thinking of the Price is Right big wheel, and those people like they grab it, they're like, and then like once it's rolling, like that thing's moving, but like it's a heavy pull or a
Yeah.
push to, and
And most people starting out, and we all are, because we're human, we don't like doing the difficult. And the most successful people are willing to do the difficult. It may not be, it's not difficult every day, but you're willing to look at the difficult. What do I break it down to do the first imaginable step, but yet continue to do the difficult? And that's the reason why things get implemented because you've got the discipline. You've got the commitment, you've got the plan, hopefully, you've got the support, and with all of that, you'll get it over. But if not, any point along the way, you can say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm throwing up my hands. This is not okay. It's not an immediate return. Who needs this? And in the moment, you're right. But I always ask myself, and I ask all my clients, do you want to be right or do you want to be successful? Two different things.
Hmm. I agree.
Because in the
You can
Sean,
be
moment,
incident.
right and successful, but how often are you not right and successful?
mm,
Not
the
many.
point
Unless you get
is you
lucky.
can be stubborn and say, you know what, in this moment, I have a great excuse. I don't need to do whatever it is. But again, in that moment, you've just killed your opportunity, your longer term opportunity. So
yeah,
do
I
you want to
agree.
be right or successful?
I
I mean,
agree.
listen,
Also kill your
I'm
momentum too, which is
yeah,
this.
I'm with you on that because I will tell you, like, for example, around my desk over here, right? I got this to do and that to do and so on and so forth. I got to my inbox, blah, blah, blah. And as the owner of, and the CEO of my marketing agency, uh, I decide which one of these things I'm going to do and when I'm going to do it. And look, I'll be the first to admit sometimes I put that which takes, let's say, I don't know, 2 hours of dedicated time. I got to sink my effort, my time into it. I don't want anybody disturbing me. I put those off a little bit, right? The things that I can just knock out right away. Well,
That
those are
feels
easy.
good. Feels good to get
Yeah,
that,
feel
start
good.
checking the items off. But there's that old saying about like eating the frog first, or like, just
Uh,
go for that hard thing. Um, and I struggle with that a lot, but it really does make a difference. As you guys were talking, I was thinking two things. First, so once it's moving for me, it was another phase in business and growth opportunity when I realized that implementation doesn't always mean I have to be the one to do all of the things. And so when we're getting started on anything, a lot of times it starts with us, especially if we're in a service business where our expertise is the thing that we're selling. But then there's a lot of things in business you couldn't possibly do it all yourself. And that held me back for a lot of years because I was afraid to not do it myself because I thought, well, nobody can do it like I can do it. And that's true. But that doesn't mean nobody else can do it well. So there's a
Or
difference.
80% is good.
80%.
Just
Yeah.
80% of your time back.
Yeah. And then
but
the
yeah,
other thing,
what you're really saying is they can't do it the way you would do it.
correct. It's different.
That's the difference.
I
That's
can
the
I can train
difference.
them
Yeah.
on my process. I can train them on how I approach it. And it's obviously if it's my company, it should go the way that my vision sees it. However, I can also get really in the weeds and micromanage if I'm not careful because there might be a more efficient way that somebody that's a pro in that area can bring to me and say, I see your result. I see where you're going. Here's how I would approach it. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'm going through right now with a new team member who's helping us with a lot of internal things, automations, things that I've been putting off. Steve, this is like right in your lane for a long time. And when you're working with somebody like yourself, Steve, that really understands this stuff, I love to learn, which is a blessing and a curse. So because I love to learn, I want to do it. But then I'm not necessarily doing the highest and best use of my title here in the
You're
company.
not in your working genius.
Working
Stop
genius.
it.
I love that. I love the way you
Stop
put
it.
that.
Let someone else do it.
Yeah. My wife once, when we were in our tiny apartment in New York many years ago, and she said, she's like, can you do me a favor? Can you clean the bathroom this weekend? And I asked her a question and I said, let me just ask you something. Is it important that the bathroom get clean or is it important that I clean the bathroom? And she's like, I've never thought about that. I said, because what I was thinking is maybe this weekend I would hire a cleaning service since we're so busy. Maybe I just have a cleaning service come in, take
Right.
care of this. And she's like, that is the most powerful question I think I've ever been asked. I was like, because if you really want to see me, if it's important to you to see me cleaning the bathroom, I will do it. If that's like, if there's I get it. Like that might be the thing she was asking. Like, you need to put in your weight around here, buddy. But that wasn't what she was asking. She just wanted the bathroom clean.
Yeah.
And it's got to be your weight,
Totally.
not
Yeah,
everybody else.
yeah. So that story came to mind as we were talking about delegating and talking about zone of genius and all of that stuff. It's like, but it got implemented. It still got implemented. It just got implemented with a different way. We used money to buy back some of our time in that case, right? But
I
anyway,
think it's one of the hardest things, at least it was for me, to learn how to delegate and let go. I mean, truly let go and just know it's going to be okay. Even like taking a vacation, turning off your cell phone and like disconnecting. I was in IT at the time when all this was going on, and I was learning how to delegate. And I was going to the strategic coach under Dan Sullivan to get coached on how to properly delegate, how to get free time, how to have what they call the no office. Literally, I got rid of my office because I wasn't doing any good in the office. I was just creating havoc and pissing people off and getting in their way and micromanaging. So they basically just scheduled me out all day, playing golf, seeing clients, making like new sales calls, whatever. But I got more work done, more productive. And the best part was my employees were more productive and happier. And I micromanaged a lot less. So I was able to learn how to delegate. That's kind of how I learned how to do it. But I think as an entrepreneur, the quicker you can learn that, 80% as good as you can do it is like 1,000% of you doing it is really a good lesson to learn.
Yeah, it comes down to trust, though. You have to be able to trust, and that's up to the entrepreneur, the owner
I'm
of the
gonna
company.
disagree.
You're gonna disagree on
You go,
trust.
girl.
Go for it.
Um,
Hit me
you
up.
have you don't have to be able to trust. You can trust, but that's baloney. You
All right,
ready? Magic word. You
go.
have to be able to train different situation.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
once you train them
All
properly, then you trust they're going to do the right thing.
but again, I've gone to companies where they trusted people They weren't
Right?
trained effectively.
Well, okay, yeah.
Nothing
All right.
happened.
Yeah,
There's
I
so
agree.
many people that take
Right.
training for granted. They don't have a formal system. They say, shadow me, look up. Baloney. You need
Yep.
to train. The training will allow you to see whether or not you can trust the individual.
And
But too many
Okay.
times
All
I've
right. You know
trusted
what?
people in their training.
I will agree with you, and I'll share our story, with my company. If you guys go back to 08, 09, especially 09, we're based out of the Detroit metro area, and the financial crisis was ground zero for us. And so, although in terms of a company, in terms of our revenue, never went down to zero. I still had to, back in around 2009-ish, I can't remember, maybe April or so, I had to let a good portion of our team go. And that was a very hard thing for me to do. It was hard because the situation came from something way so far outside of my control. It was mind-boggling. And so when you think about training and you think about training your staff, the last thing you want to do is have a turnover of staff, and you certainly don't want your staff to feel like they need to leave. And so I think a interesting example about training, and I agree with you, Rochelle, at the Q4 of 2010, our large corporate clients started to come back to the marketplace. And by the time I got to January of 2011, I was starting to build a new team, literally. But Rochelle, you're right. First, what's the first thing I did? I trained.
sure.
That's step number one. You're right. I'm with you.
No, because
So,
I go to companies today, they don't train. And
so
then they
there's
say,
Yeah.
Michelle, I hired a dingbat. I said, you didn't hire a dingbat. You have no system.
You show them what to do.
and there's I think a couple important caveats to all of that. You could train someone to do anything. You can't make someone be anything. People are who they are innately. So you want to try and hire A players that are trainable, that also have your same core values, your same beliefs, and
Absolutely.
also believe in the same vision because it's driven down from the executive team down. Then you train them. Now you got gold because now you got someone you can trust, someone that's trained to do the job properly, that will take care of your clients for you so you look good. And they're
And
happier doing it because they're doing what they love doing.
yeah, but let's continue down this training path, because there's something else to consider. The amount of time that it takes to train
Oh,
is not easy. You're not
it's
talking about
expensive.
3 months. Forget 30 days. You're not even talking about 3 months. You're talking about a year.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, you train them on X, then you go to Y, and then you go to Z. And then with each one of those, you go back, and then you have to follow up, and you have to drill down on the X, and the drill down on the Y, and drill down on the Z. And this process of training does take time. It requires a lot of patience. And guess what, Mr. Entrepreneur, CEO, president of the company, you're going to be doing some of that work while you're training. And that training is going to feel really hard.
And if you're smart, I will tell you the best thing you can do is take the extra time, which I will tell you right now sucks, and document it. Document the
Yeah.
Absolutely.
process. Because if
Today you
you
should be
document the
filming it.
process, well, the whole idea is to make yourself as an entrepreneur redundant. You want to make it so the business runs without you. But think about it if every single position was also redundant. Someone's out sick. God forbid they have a medical emergency. They have to go to on the Easter bit because their mom's not feeling well. Whatever. But now at least you have a documented process. Anybody can come in and follow the process. So I think that's key as well. That,
Yeah,
that think
Yeah.
about that early on.
I resisted that for so long, and then I went to the opposite extreme where I record literally everything that I'm doing right now. I had to upgrade my Loom plan and upgrade because I've got so many things, and now with AI tools to be able to take that and get a lot of it in writing as well, it has
Yeah.
been a game changer for me because the toughest thing for me was to take what's between these two ears and get it in writing and get it into a process. And my wife the same way. Like when it was the two of us, only the two of us, everything was running and we were doing it in our head and we know it better than anybody. And so some early on hiring, somebody comes in and I show them a little piece of it and take, as Rochelle said, take a lot of it for granted because I'm like, well, of course they would know that. Of course they would know that. And they don't know that. Even the A players, they expect to be trained and they love it. Like I found that the A players crave personal development. They crave, they want to get better. And so if you have a team full of people that want to get better, man, that's a
Right.
contagious thing, and it's awesome. And I train myself every day. I'm getting trained every day. I train on sales every day. I train on marketing every day on my job through videos and through mentors and coaches. So I can easily show my team that there is no finish line here. We're all trying to keep getting better and more efficient and smarter. And A players really want to do that. Go
But
ahead,
here's
Rochelle.
the other thing,
Assuming,
make it
yeah,
easier. Make it easier. You wanted, and hopefully you only have to, hopefully you have the culture of train the trainer. So you're training one person and then they're with you for a while and they take on the responsibility after that. If you have it videoed, and especially today with all these, chat GPT bots, there's so many, or GPTs, there's so much that you can do today that's AI, that you're creating the culture of train the trainer. And that's why most people don't want to train, because in the beginning they don't know anything. So you're doing it and you're training them. So it takes you triple the time. A, for you to do it, B, to train. I mean, and you don't have the time to begin with, let alone have it take that much more. But you need to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because in the long run, that's what's going to make the difference in your business. So you want to set up, number one, I'm going to train this person. And ideally, if this is going to happen as the business expands, we want the environment of train the trainer. How can they pass it on to the next person so that training is not on one person's head? It's kind of dispersed. And because of that, you're not vulnerable to one person leaving and hijacking all the IP.
And you
there's
have an
another.
existing
I'm sorry.
company, you can easily ask your employee to document their processes
Yeah, they can do the training.
and have them do the documentation for you. It's not going to be neat and clean the way you want it. That they got GPTs for that. You fit clean it right up. But yeah, you can have them actually document it for you if you're an existing company as well.
You're also building a relationship, and the relationship being, let's say, you, the entrepreneur, the owner, partner, whatever of the company, you're doing the training. You're building a relationship with the team, especially if it's a team like us that's a sponge. All they want to do is learn and learn and learn. And I mean that you providing that education, you providing them knowledge, you're sharing experiences, you're helping them through this process, and they all they want to do is just suck that all up. That's a good thing. That builds that rapport, that builds that relationship with the team. All they want to do is get their job done well. That makes them feel good, right? And so if what you're doing is helping them in that direction, they're gonna love you.
I'm going to go one further. This is what we're going to like this one. You're not, you are building the relationship, and that's great. But more important, much more important, you're building an asset. Because
Yeah.
later on, if you're going to be thinking of selling your company or partnering or
Yeah.
whatever, you have an asset. You're building an asset. And the more assets you have, which is the more structure, the more training, the more fill in the blank that you have, the more valuable your company is. So instead of going out and doing whatever, what do I need to do to build an asset? One asset could be your product and your service. Okay, you've got one. Your other asset can actually be what's your internal training. What do you need to do? So that will immediately give you a higher valuation in your company if you are thinking of, let's say, building in a lot of startups today. They don't want to be in this for 10 years. They want to be in it, get it to a particular level, and then sell. So if you're going to sell, especially with a training thing, what are the assets that you have? Because if the information is in your head only, or if 90% of the business is either based on your IP, or even worse, your relationships, because by the time you leave, the relationships aren't sustainable, you don't have a product.
Yeah,
You really shot yourself in the foot. So you want to think about, what's the asset that I'm building today? And that is incredibly valuable.
we're working a lot
Yeah.
on that. A lot of our clients are startups, and so I've kind of paid very close attention to, especially the second and third time founders that we work with that have exited before for 9, 10 figures, and we're working with them on their next thing. And I'm just we're part of that for them because we're helping them build a lot of those internal systems and training
Mhm.
systems and all of that stuff. And so it's been really valuable for me to pay very close attention to what these folks that have exited for billions are doing. And I'm thinking, well, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for my small business, even though the
What you're
model's very
doing,
different.
when you're telling them that you're supporting them in building the infrastructure, I'm suggesting that you use different language, that you're working with them to build, you're building an asset.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We
It's an
always talk
asset.
about people being the asset, and people are an asset, but it's the, you know, it's what the people can do, and how you empower them to do their job. And it reminds me of what I had a mentor once who was like, if you look at the studies of why people start businesses, one of the number one answers is they wanted to be their own boss. They didn't want to work for somebody else anymore, and they wanted to be left alone and just do their thing, do their thing, right? And so what a lot of first-time business owners do is they hire people and think that all of those people want to be left alone and just to do what they want to do. And really, people are coming to a company because they want to, it's not that they want to be told what to do, but they want to be shown how to be successful. Because if they wanted to start their own business, they'd probably be doing it. And so they're looking to you, like it's up to the leader to show them how to be successful here. So that's where the training comes in and building the asset, as you said. But it's so funny because,
You're helping them develop a career. That's
what
really what it
totally,
comes
that's
down
what
to.
they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to see like what am I becoming here? What's
Yeah.
possible here, and how
I
do I
Exactly.
always
The
say
growth
that
path.
when I'm working with somebody and they're hiring, I tell them you have to be very clear to answer this question. Who do they become because they're working for you?
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
they're
Yeah.
interested in. Who do
Yeah.
they become? What's their growth? Who do they become? And if you can answer that successfully, you have a very, quote, trustworthy employee that's willing to do what you need in order to make the business grow. Because as you're growing your business, you're growing them. And that's what the right employee really wants. That's just saying, Sean, they're hungry for education because they know that the more that they can improve themselves, the better that they can do in their industry.
Wow.
totally.
And true story, I'll use my daughter for this example, which is a true story. It's even more and more important. It's not necessarily about money always.
Right.
My
Not
daughter, my daughter
exactly.
got out of college, was making really good money for a 24-year-old at the time when she took this job at GQ, making really good money, great magazine, good company, very healthy, and it just got kind of stagnant for her. It just like didn't excite
Mm,
for whatever
right.
reason. She's got her reasons, whatever. She's looked at A24 Films, this other movie studio. It was really exciting. They were up and coming. They had just gotten 7 Grammys that year. That she's been there 3 years now. And she made a lateral move. So employees want to know what's their path. And she knew at GQ she was going to be doing social media design for the end of her time. That's where she's going to be. Over here now at A24, she's already been promoted to now she has 2 people underneath her. So she's on
Hmm.
the way of a growth path. So I think the employees want to know what's in it for me, not necessarily cash, but also what am I going to learn? What am I going to grow? How else are you going to enhance me as my boss,
Yeah.
as me working for you? What's my path?
I mean, as the entrepreneurs, as the owners are building the company, the employee is saying, I want to build my career. And so, whether you like it or not, as long as scenario number one is you make things work and the employee is building their career and they stay with you, right? For me, luckily, I have that scenario. Option number two is, and this is the one that I think a lot of owners, CEOs, etc., are afraid of, is saying, "Well, I'm going to spend all this time, training you, and then you're going to leave." I'm like, "Well, that's not going to get you anywhere either."
Yeah. So
No.
what's the alternative? Don't train them, right? So like,
Yeah, right.
so and
And
then
then
we
Yeah, but
what?
that's not the right alternative.
yeah,
As
no,
much as
but you're
it's an
right. That's a
alternative,
limiting mindset that a lot. I mean,
It's a
right?
very limited
yeah,
If
and
you
mindset.
treat
it's
them right,
something you
you
have to
treat
work
them
through.
well, they will, and you take care of them, they will help you and they will stay with you because,
Yeah,
like you said before, if they wanted to run their own business, they would have left and started their own business already. And it's going to
Yeah.
right.
happen. It's
And
going
I've
to
had
happen.
that, I've had some team members that truly wanted to do their own thing, and that's not why necessarily they moved on, but it was a big motivator as they were doing. I fully support that, and so I'm always the first one to say anything I can do to help you. Please let me know. Ultimately, I want the people to be successful, and so if the path for them is their own business, even if they come to our company and they say, you know what, in 10 years' time, I'd love to do what you guys are doing. I love to hear that because now I know I have somebody that wants to be mentored and wants to learn. And great. If our company becomes the vehicle for you to learn the things that you need to learn and grow the skills you need to grow so that you can then go do something similar and win, that is worth way more to me than keeping you here. If that's what you want to do 5, 7, 8, 10 years from now. So I encourage that. And it's a lot of times they're shocked to hear that, but ultimately, that's partly why I would even bother to hire employees. I can be a solopreneur and make good money. I really can. I think we all can. But like
Yeah.
building a company, there's more to it than just the money part. It's seeing people win here and seeing them be successful. And
Yep.
starts with the training, of course, but that's kind of a personal philosophy. It's like, you want to start something? Great, I'm here for you. Most people
Yeah.
don't. Most people don't. They know how
I mean,
hard.
No,
look,
most figure you're gonna like go, oh, what? You want to start your own business? Get out.
Yeah,
And that's not
fine, leave.
necessarily
Yeah,
true.
yeah. I
I
think it's
mean, we had somebody on staff, albeit everybody has stayed, with the team together for 14 years. One person decided to leave. He was managing a lot of our advertising, and I think, to be perfectly honest with you, he gained enough knowledge on this, that, and the other thing, and he decided not to compete with us or go on to, do the same thing in terms of marketing and advertising. He actually went into real estate. And so he took the knowledge that he gained over, in his case, don't quote me on this, but maybe 8 years or something like that, knowledge and experience that he gained, and he figured out how to move it into an industry that he enjoyed. And for him, it was the real estate industry. And I thought it was great. I mean, more power to him. I think everybody needs to move on and make decisions for themselves. If the decision is to stick with the company, great, stick with the company. If your decision is, as you grow and as you learn and as you gain experience and knowledge, is to, what, I want to do something on my own, they should pursue it. Absolutely.
If
I
you
think
got
it goes.
SOPs in place and you've got cross training done,
Yeah.
it should be like plug and play. Bink,
Yep.
bink,
Other
new
thing is what
person.
you just said, Maylee, I think was great. What'd you say? Like all the power to them?
yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
And like
let them move.
I think it's also I want you to also look at it as the opposite. It's more power to you because you've done such a great job and you've set something up and
Sure.
it's so for me rewarding when you see that somebody's gone on and they're doing great and see that's what I love about being in business is that we make a difference to an employee. They make a difference to their we make a difference to the company. The company makes a
Mhm.
difference to their employees. They make a difference like the community. And we're really part of this ripple effect. And that's what really gets me moving is that I'm saying
Yep.
that what I'm doing has a larger impact. And I love that concept. We're not just saving this small company or improving the company. We're doing so much more. And I just think it's great when you say all the power to them. It's like, yay, all the power to us. Because
Sure.
through our mentorship or whatever by
Yeah.
being under our tutelage
Exactly.
we're doing great.
Yeah.
I mean, just like Sean was saying, the limiting mindset's not the right direction for any
No,
owner.
you want to, there's,
Never ends well.
yeah,
No,
that's
it doesn't. Not at all.
abundance and scarcity mindset is probably a great topic for a future episode because there's a lot we can
Oh,
No
talk
doubt.
about.
one of
Because
my
I agree.
favorite
because
topics.
how many
One of my
different
favorite.
times does it show up? And it's not just about financial. Financial is a big piece,
Hmm.
but it's so many different ways that I catch myself, and I don't always catch it in the moment, but looking back at a decision and I go, ooh, that was a scarcity move, and you can tell whether that's I was afraid to let someone go because I was afraid I couldn't hire someone else. It's like, wait, there's 8 billion people in this world. There's not a single other person I might be able to hire
I
for
know.
this role. That's one example. And yeah, and somebody said a minute ago, maybe I think it was Steve, you were talking about it's not always about the money. And there's all kinds of surveys done about this, and it's so true. The data backs that up. And it doesn't mean we pay people
Hmm.
garbage. It means we pay well. And all things equal, that's not what keeps someone at a company usually.
Yeah, I
It,
agree.
it is,
I
it
agree.
is like Rochelle said, is who they feel they're becoming here. What's my path to growth here? Because as human
Yeah.
beings, if we're
Hmm.
not growing and we feel like we're in a dead end, you could throw more money at me and it might buy you 6 months. And eventually I'm going to get so unhappy. I've been in those
Yeah,
situations
it doesn't make good.
and
I
sometimes it's holding on to a client too long because the money is good. And I'm
Oh
like,
God, is
oh
that the
man,
truth?
I don't like who I'm
We've
becoming by
all
working with
done
this.
that. I think we've all done that. Oh
Yeah,
God,
but that's another
absolutely.
example as an owner of things like
We've
um,
all done that.
we're not there's more decisions than just the money too. It's about like who are we becoming working with this client? If it's draining on
Yeah.
the company,
Well,
right?
it's funny. This is also the same child that when we were looking at colleges decided not to go to an art school only, like SCAT or the FIT in New York. She wanted to go to a school that also had academia,
Hmm.
because in case she hated
Hmm.
art one day, she could fall back on the academia piece. So
Yep, something else.
maybe it's the breed of who they are that really kind of drives it. But I
I
think those are key
Smart.
employees.
I
Yeah.
think today with recovering from COVID, and I tell this to every one of my clients, I said if you're there's a lot of resistance going back to the office in New York. This we're not back to 5 days a week. I don't even think we're back to, if we're lucky, we're back to three.
Yeah. It's
The
like two and
point
a
is,
half. Yeah.
I say that you have to give people a great reason why to come to an office, because if not, they're going to go elsewhere. You have
Yeah.
to give them a reason. You have to be mentoring them. You've got to be training, something. There's got to be a culture of success in that environment that they want to commute an hour in each direction. And if you don't take that seriously, the chances of them staying is slim to none. And here's the other thing, which is even more important. There used to be an expression, you're only as great as your weakest employee. And I think that's baloney. You're only as great as your greatest employee. Because the weakest employee, you can kind of like, you can
You can
you can
replace.
pull them
Yeah.
in pretty easily. But
The other employees will weed them out. Don't worry.
Usually.
when you have some great people, you don't want to lose them. So you're only as good as your greatest employee, and
Yeah.
make it valuable for them to come in so that they can make the impact that they need to. And people can get real stubborn. I don't know. I mean,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
dealing with a lot of that.
There was Rochelle, there was some you and I were at an on-site together, one of your trainings that I came and helped you out with, and there was an employee there that I spoke to that was commuting 90 minutes from far suburbs of New Jersey, driving into Long Island City to Queens every day.
Oh
Right.
my.
And I remember, like, and I walked to her car. We had left the training together and we were walking and talking. I'm like, oh yeah, I used to live in Jersey. And I said, can I ask you something? Like, what what like motivates you to do that? And she's just like, I love this place. She's like, I love this place. I love who I work for. I like how I feel when I'm here. She's like, the commute doesn't bother me. And I'm like, I start thinking it doesn't bother you because you think it's well worth it. It's an investment of time because there's so much that you gain from being here that you're
That's what I'm
willing to sit
saying.
in the
You've
car
got
for
to
three
give them a
hours,
reason.
3 hours in New York City
Tell
traffic.
people a reason. Exactly. You just
Yeah.
proved my point. You've got to give people the reason to make it worth their while, not your while, their while.
She didn't
I'll tell you
complain
what's
like
funny
not even
is
a minute. She was like, there was not an ounce of complaint of like, yeah, it kind of sucks, but I do it. There was none of that. It was just like, of course I would do this.
I just
I
picked
would.
up
I
a
would.
client in
Yeah.
Brooklyn and Coney Island, and I did not mind going to see them whatsoever. I had such a great time. I just had the best time going there. I'd
Yep.
go there any day of the week.
Yeah. Go ahead, Maylee.
Sean, that story is interesting because she said, if I mean, I don't know exactly, but the way that you worded it was, she said, yes, I like who I work for. And I'm going to revise that. If she's working for somebody, I don't know that she's very happy. Rather, I think the terminology might be better suited to say she's working with somebody. And there is a distinction in terms of
Yeah, but I'll challenge you that
that
not
emotional
everybody
stuff.
has that mindset. Some people are
No, they don't. I
happy.
agree.
Some
Yeah.
people are happy saying, I work at this place, I work for this
Yep.
place. I'm all about team players. I'm all about, teammates working with. I agree with you and your sentiment and what you're saying, but not everybody has that go-getter kind of
No, they
attitude.
don't.
They're
I
just
agree.
worker bees, and there's worker bees and queen bees for a reason.
Yep, I agree.
That's okay.
100%. Right, 100%. I mean, there was one time moons ago, gosh, this goes back to the 1990s when I was still putting ads in the paper to find staff, right? This is a long time ago. And at that time, I ended up, when I was interviewing people, one of my questions amongst whatever else was going on was, do you see a difference between working with and working for a company?
I was going to ask
And
you what's a paper, but never mind.
yeah, but so here's the interesting thing. It's neither here nor there. But what I'm going to tell you is if their background was from a cultural family, and however you want to, I'm not going to go into the details on how you want to define that,
Hmm.
versus a family that doesn't have a culture and it's just straightforward. I will tell you,
She froze.
Cliffhanger, man. I couldn't have planned that one any
Oh,
better.
that is a cliffhanger.
goosey, so to speak. for lack of better words, had no idea how to answer that question. It was interesting.
And you
Well,
have no idea that you froze for about
Yeah,
6 seconds.
we lost
Do
about
you?
15 seconds.
Okay.
I'll bet it
You're
was
like, no.
awesome. I'll bet it was the best thing you said all day.
Oh, this technology.
I was like, you're such a
You
good
can't
marketer.
make this up, man.
You dropped a hook and then you walked away. Like that's what a great
I walk
marketer
good.
does.
It's gone.
No, like I think what you're getting at is,
Mm.
there's certain people that were, it was really important to them to be in that kind of environment
Correct.
and thrive.
The idea that they're part of something, I
Yeah.
think, makes a difference versus the
Yes, being part
people
of something.
who don't understand the fact that they're part of something. They're
Yeah.
just, where's my paycheck type of attitude.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
Yep.
Well, this was what I love about this group is like we don't plan any of this stuff. It starts off with like we usually start talking about something that happened with this podcast, and then it goes into like all these entrepreneurial lessons, which is awesome. So
we start out by thanking you
well
for
that
the
hey,
work that you're doing.
we could do that. We could do that every week. We can do that every week.
All right.
Re-
All right.
really enjoying the conversations. There's just so much wisdom here, and I really appreciate it. So we will keep this going. Lots of nuggets forthcoming. I love the idea of
Absolutely.
scarcity. Something that came up for me today, because as we know, we didn't have an episode last week. I'm thinking of like, what happens when you feel like you're just dropping the ball on everything. That's something that I would love to talk about with you all at some point. So we'll see what next week brings. But thank you all
Sounds
for
like a
being
plan.
here, and we'll is everybody here next week, or are we going? Are we
We're here.
losing somebody? All right, cool.
I believe I am here next week.
let's welcome future lunatics. Just come on by
Come on
and
in, lunatics. Yes.
let's just identify yourself as a lunatic. You are more than welcomed here.
So make sure you're following us. We have a new page that we're going to start promoting. It's the Business Lunatics page on LinkedIn. So be sure to give that a follow. Once we have 150 followers on that page, we can actually go live on that page as opposed to going live on my profile, which is fine too. Make sure you're following us. If you're seeing this on YouTube, it means that my team did its job really, really well, and we got things uploaded to YouTube. And you can hit that subscribe button if you're still watching. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week, episode 5.